Rodriguez de Jaga wants it back. He gets it back and leaves it through for Holtby. Oh, it's off the line. It's off the line.
Welcome, George, to another episode. We're doing this in a different manner this time. Today, we're looking at Stones and Shaw, who look like they've revitalized their careers at their respective clubs. Stones displacing Laporte, who was arguably City's best centre back for the last few seasons, and Shaw practically being undroppable from the United team. When United don't play him, it looks like they have just lost a gear moving forward. So yeah, we're going to see what exactly these boys have done to raise their performances and becoming one of the best centre backs and one of the best left backs we have in the league at the moment. So yeah, let's delve right into it. Let's start off with Stones, and you did take a huge deep dive into Stones. So what have you found? Anything interesting? Something we're missing here?
Yeah, so I mean, like before we analyze Stones, I think it's really important to analyze City first. And this season, City, as well compared to last season, how they've changed. And I mean, the first thing off the bat is last season they were injury struck with Laporte, who missed a chunk of their games, and that forced Fernandinho to drop back in the same way how Fabinho's dropped back in because of the absence of Van Dijk, and that led to partnerships with Fernandinho Stones, Fernandinho Otamendi, Stones Otamendi, and it wasn't like present day Liverpool. They couldn't have like a static centre back partnership, and this was obviously one of the fundamental reasons why City had a bad season. I mean, even if you look at their results from the last season, their win streak is just peppered with losses, unlike Liverpool this season where they're going through streaks of losses. But even then, they were conceding a high number of goals, and because of this, lack of fortitude at the back, people were more confident when they came. Either when they hosted City or when they went to the Etihad. And I think now with the presence of, Diaz and Stones, who have had, it's like a more static centre back partnership, teams are now a little bit more scared of Manchester City. And when, that fear factor that they had, maybe 2 seasons ago is coming back. This season, I mean, already they've only conceded 14 goals. At the same point last season, they'd already conceded 27. So an incredible improvement from that. And they had, I think City were experimenting, or rather Pep was experimenting with centre back partnerships at the beginning of the season. And they kept their first clean sheet after I think 3 games. It was Diaz and Ake partnership that kept their first clean sheet. And he's also experimented with Laporte Diaz, which we thought would probably be the centre back partnership that's going to rock the Premier League. It's going to literally be a rock at the back. But it hasn't, to be honest, because if you look at them, they've only kept 2 clean sheets in 6 appearances together, and that too, both of them have been against Sheffield United. And I think with the context that Sheffield United aren't having the best of seasons, it isn't really much to their credit. What do you think?
Yeah, and you would, on first glance of it, you would say that Ruben Diaz has come into the team. He's revitalized that backline that looked really shaky last season. So I think a lot of credit does go to Diaz for bringing that added confidence, which for sure I think he definitely has. Although Stones has gone leaps and bounds in his game. Uh, Displacing Almeric Laporte is not is not a it's not an easy feat for sure. And Stones actually has the numbers to back it up, isn't that right, John?
Yeah, he actually does. So John Stones has ink from his game last season. He has got more interceptions, more tackles and interceptions, and more clearances, and more number of blocks than he had last season, and all by considerable amounts. Increasing by 1.5 times in certain cases, and sometimes even double. And what really, really good about Stones that I've found out is his one-on-one defending. And his tackle success rate in one-on-one situations is about 71%. Now, comparing that to last season's John Stones, he only had 44% last season. And what's even more amazing is if you compare that, his 71% tackle success rate this season with Diaz's tackle success rate, you can see that he's way better because Ruben Diaz only has 45% tackle success rate in one-on-one defending. So he's there are definitely certain aspects of his game that are better than Diaz. And also, if you try to compare Diaz and Stones, because I think what happens is in the English media and pundits and commentators, etc., they really try to highlight Diaz as being like this new Van Dijk commanding the back line. But when you pit them against each other, you actually find out that John Stones' stats is actually comparable. So all the things that I said before about interceptions, clearances, blocks, in certain cases, John Stones actually has higher stats per game. And like I said, in one-on-one defending, John Stones is actually much better than Ruben Diaz. But like you said, Ruben Diaz is the thing that he brings is definitely similar to what Van Dijk brings. It's a confidence. It's this commanding presence, which is just down to his experience, in the national team and playing in League NOS. So this is something that Stones hasn't had because Stones has been in and out of the squad. He hasn't really elevated himself ever, I don't think, in this City team to be a commanding presence. So I think that is what Ruben Diaz brings more than his stats. I think it's that and this confidence that the fullbacks can press up, that the midfielders have a confidence that they're screening really good defenders. I think that's what Ruben Diaz brings. But John Stones, you can't take anything away from him.
Yeah, and all those stats that you did mention, blocks, interceptions, clearances, it shows that he has added defensive awareness to his game, which you could say that he always did have, but he did have the tendency to have mistake leading chances as well. You know what I mean?
That's
So
definitely true. Yeah, as in I think he had 3 errors leading to goals last season, and this season not a single one. He's been faultless. And what's I think all of this is just adding so much to his game that he has kept 17 clean sheets in all competitions and just conceded 3 goals. And that's an insane stat. As far as I'm concerned, if you're a defender and you can boast that you've kept 16, those kind of clean sheet numbers, and not to concede more than a single goal per game, that's amazing. And he's actually unbeaten in the league. Whenever John Stones has started the game, he hasn't lost. So I mean, like, what more do you want? What more can Pep want in a back line? I think I think honestly, if Ruben Diaz and John Stones was in this form at the start of the season and they had got this run of games the same way how they're doing now from the start, they would have been well on track to break Jose Mourinho's defensive Premier League record because this seems like you can't penetrate them. So yeah, it's
and
incredible.
yeah, what about like City moving forward these days? They have like umpteens amount of possession with the ball. Um, how many chances are City conceding in these games? I don't think it would be many, and that also has a part to play. The fact that okay, because of their solidity at the back, they can be more expressive on the ball. They can play a little bit of a higher line, and the fullbacks can drift into other positions. Now we see Cancelo moving into almost a CDM role when they're moving forward. So my question being is, the way that City is playing now, they don't have too much work to do at the back at the same time either.
True, definitely. I think City found their groove again. It's slightly different to how they used to play 2 seasons ago. So, like you said, the role of Cancelo, the role of that right back, is now a little bit more different, and you do find Cancelo drifting more inside. So yeah, the way that City have evolved does mean that Stones or Diaz or whoever's playing at the back doesn't have much to do. but this wasn't there at the start of the season. This is something that Pep has brought in. So yeah, definitely credit to the City midfield because they've been really doing bits, and credit to Pep as well for changing the game or changing the style when he realized that it wasn't working. But when called upon, these boys haven't put a foot wrong, and I think that's incredible. And especially in the case of John Stones, where he was an average Premier League defender at best, and probably got a lot of stick, like you said, for his price tag, and finally live up to that, and to then displace one of City's, like you said, arguably best defenders in recent times is insane. And John Stones will never be as good, let's say, as Laporte from 1819. If you try to compare the stats of both of them, you will find out that Laporte was way better in all of the stats that I mentioned before, and it's almost double actually the per 90 stats of blocks, interceptions, etc. But the the number of goals and the clean sheets that Stones has amassed, and goals that has he's prevented from conceding, is way better than Laporte did in 1819. So there are definitely aspects of John Stones' game that you can compare to Laporte from 1890, but I think on the whole, it isn't as good, and that I think that's okay. I think his role isn't, or his goal isn't, to be the best, center back in the world. I think that's too ambitious, but it's probably to just do the task that he's been assigned to do, and that's to stop goals going in, as simple as that. And he's doing that flawlessly. So as far as he's concerned, he's on the right track. And I guess from here on out, where do I see John Stones progressing? I would want to see him take more of a leadership role. He's been at the club for a while, and he's seen how he's been one of Pep's earliest signings that was brought in. So I feel that now that he's getting a good run of games and he's been in the side a lot more, he should try to aim for captaincy and set these kind of goals for himself, and also have a little. I know he's scoring a lot of goals this season, more than Diaz has scored actually. But there are certain times in the game where you do see Diaz come front, the same way how Tyrone Mings comes front when England play. Mings joins the attack, so you do see Diaz also join the attack, not as often, but he does do it. I don't feel John Stones has that kind of confidence or has that in his game. So that could definitely be something that he could work upon, because even against Tottenham last night, there were times where John Stones makes really good interceptions and blocks and gets into the Spurs half, but then his passing goes a bit disarray, and he tries to be a bit ambitious or adventurous and tries to maybe switch the play, and it just doesn't work out and he loses the ball. So maybe that part of the game he could improve. But then again, I'm just being very nitpicky here. Like, I'm trying to find a fault in someone who's had, in my opinion, a perfect run of games till now. So yeah, all credit to him. And I think he should it has to go upwards from here. And that should be his goal.
Yeah, and where would you put Stones, like in the best defender talk in the Premier League at the moment? Since we don't have Van Dijk, let's just take him out of the running. So
I mean, if people say that Diaz is the best defender in the league, then purely from a stat point of view, you have to say Johnson is the best defender in the league as well, because they have comparable, and if not, Johnson probably has better stats than Diaz. So yeah, why not? If Diaz has that label on him, why can't John Stones have it? So yeah, I would put him right.
fair enough. Well, kudos to City for, I'm sure Pep has had a word with Stones and told him, hey, I need you now. You need to step your game up. And Stones probably made that mental change in his mind, like, okay, boss needs me. I need to step up my game, and credit where credit is due, right? Another thing that I just wanted to touch upon is City did bring in Ake as well. It hasn't worked out for him. Uh, it's it's actually really brilliant to see that Stones went out from went from being out of favor, where City thought they had to bring in a different defender to fill in that spot. And now it looks like Laporte and Ake are just there for squad depth, and very impressive squad depth. City always have had it. So yeah, again, we just have to reiterate the point that Stones may be the best defender the league has seen this season, and we should give him credit where it's due.
Yeah, yeah. As in, it kind of reminds me of another player who stepped up their game when the club tried to sign another replacement, and that's Luke Shaw. Like you said, when Alex Tellez came in, when you thought that Tellez was going to replace Shaw, Shaw really stepped up his game.
Yeah,
So
it's a perfect segue into Shaw. Very similar situation. I personally thought that Tellez was brought in to, maybe not displace Shaw, but definitely add some competition for that spot. Previous seasons, we had Brandon Williams, who was a right footed left back. So that doesn't always work out. And previous to that, it was another right footed left back in Ashley Young. Neither who are very inspiring when it comes to playing in that position. And I think a lot of United fans were very excited to see Chelas come into the side, who is very versatile going forward. He has that early ball in him. He's good from free kicks and corners. However, Shaw has been running the show on that left flank. Not only popping up with assists, he has 4 assists already this season. He is, when United move forward, we can see everything happening on that left hand side, which is definitely a good thing. However, it does expose the right hand side with Van Bissaka and maybe Greenwood starting there. Shaw has developed a perfect relationship with Rashford, and when Bruno Fernandes does pop into that left midfield role, they play some beautiful triangles, and Shaw's doing some really good running up and down that flank. Always thought he was very solid uh, defending, and we've seen that against Mahrez or even Salah, who are probably the best right wingers that we have in the league at the moment. And Shaw keeps them quiet for the most part. So adding to his attacking game was something that we were all shouting for. And my God, he has done it leaps and bounds. Uh, he just runs the show there, and he's become undroppable from that team along with Fernandez. Although I just want to see what was the reason that Shaw turned this around? Because a few seasons ago, under Mourinho, he was getting a lot of slack, especially from the manager, and in turn, it moved to the fans. So I'm just thinking Shaw must have seen Tellez coming and thought, okay, the club is looking to replace me. He just puffed his chest out and he said, okay, let's go. I'm going to show them why they signed me as the most expensive defender at the time, most expensive teenager at the time. That was Shaw's label. Shaw's also been very unlucky in terms of his injury record. After he broke his leg against PSV in the Van Hal days, I think, he hasn't looked the same. So this is a huge testament to his mentality first, because he had the quality. We've all seen that before. We've seen shades of it. He's added consistency to that, and he's become undroppable in that team. And arguably, I don't think at this point it's not an argument. He is the best left back in the Premier League, and doing that against someone like Andrew Robertson, who we all know is unbelievable on his day. That's a huge testament to that.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I think there's this. You see this trend a lot where teams bring in replacements or understudies, and you find that the original or the people that were more favored before the signing start to elevate their game. So in terms of Liverpool, when Jota came in, you saw that Mane, Firmino, and Salah all elevated their game at that point because Jota had
He can play
made
anywhere in that front three. Yeah,
yeah, he could play anywhere in that front three. So all of their positions were, jeopardized. So Yeah, so it's definitely a tactic or a strategy that clubs use to bring out the best in their players, and it's clearly worked in the case of Luke Shaw.
Yeah, all we need to see now is a response from Alex Telles, because what that will do is take Shaw's game to the next level, and it would take
Definitely.
obviously Telles' game to the next level, and that is never going to be a bad thing. I always think that, like, competition for places and managers having that selection headache is the best problem a manager can have, in terms of, like, okay, I have too many good players for a certain position.
Yeah.
Uh, we've always seen it with City. Up until up until now, we're seeing that with them. They have incredible strength in that, and I feel that United are showing that, albeit they are doing it really slowly. Like, we've been talking about the rebuild for, I think, the last 4 seasons now, and it's, as a United fan and seeing all the turmoil that we've gone, and seeing the amount of stick that Shaw's got, talking about him being, unfit, being fat and lazy. Those are really stupid arguments. I think it was personally attacking the guy, which was very unfair to him. So, and especially in this sort of social media age, we keep bringing that point up. He must have heard a lot of, seen a lot of criticism online. And yeah, I just really want to give him the credit of showing that I am at a big club. I deserve to be here. I'm a Manchester United player, and I'll leave everything on the line. Uh, I just want to put it into, like, perspective. Shaw played 45 minutes against Southampton, where he scored 9 goals. Uh, he set up 2 goals in that game, and on, like, in a United fan perspective, there was an online poll, and he came out man of the match. When have you ever seen a player come out man of the match when he's played 45 minutes in a game where they scored 5 goals in the second half? That really says something, that he's won over the United fans uh, with unbelievable performances. And if he keeps doing this, his confidence is just going to grow. And I think we still are yet to see the best version of Luke Shaw. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Off the Line podcast, brought to you by Your Football Journal. If you like the content, be sure to hit that like button, share, and comment. Follow us on socials and check out our website at yourfootballjournal.com. Links will be in the description. Catch us on Spotify for a new episode every Wednesday. Until then, keep it off the line.